another team, as Stephen A. Smith called it, karma. I know you love him, but karma for Brooklyn. Losing in 7. Obviously, they had their health issues, but those issues might have came from guys like Kyrie not playing in a lot of games, Harden holding out in Houston. So it's a lot of variables that come together to make it maybe not the perfect season like the Nets needed. My takes in the past have been Nets easy to the finals, and I've been getting bashed for that now too, but good for Milwaukee. They took them down. Even if they were not fully healthy in Brooklyn, does not matter. Those guys were supposed to be the number one team. They fell short of their expectations. That's why they went home, and Milwaukee's now playing game 1 tonight. I want to say now, I do agree with Stephen A. Ironically, I never do. But if you have to pick one thing that really killed them in this series outside of injuries, and I already think I know your answer, but you got to pick one thing outside of the injuries that hurt this Nets team, that made them lose this series. What is it?
Oh, I want to know what you think my answer is going to be. Now I'm going to ask you what.
Your boy Sleepy
No.
Joe Harris. No. Wow. Okay.
You know what messed it up? I point to a couple of things. I think number one is the amount of bench pieces they rotated throughout the year. I thought that might be a little part of it. Okay, they went through like Amon Shumpert, Noah Vonleh, Norvel Pell, who has become a Knicks cheerleader, so shout out to him. They went through Aldridge. Unfortunately, that had a medical complication, so we hope he's doing all right. LaMarcus, if you ever find this, what's up, dude? And that's part of it, okay? Rotating through so many bench players has just been an atrocity. The second thing that I point to is you have to understand James Harden in the playoffs. He has not performed well in the playoffs. He contributed to the 28 consecutive missed threes in Houston.
Yeah.
He was terrible in the bubble besides game 1 and round 2 against the Lakers. But I think the bubble should be kind of voided. It was a little bit of a skewed environment, I thought. And number 3, the James Harden trade also just killed the Nets. And here's where I say the James Harden trade killed the Nets. We talked about the Hawks earlier, right? How many players did I name on the Hawks that can do stuff? About what, 8 or 9, maybe?
Their whole rotation.
Right. The Nets offense, I found Steve Nash's playbook, is literally this. This is what it is, okay? It's a stick figure with a basketball, and I drew a hoop here, and it says KD, Kyrie, or Harden fall into hoop and win game. That's not going to work, okay? Lacking depth in a playoff series, just with the way that the Nets have been constructed, everything they've gone through. You mentioned injuries too. Durant playing like 30-something games. Kyrie going down didn't help them. I think it was all of that. But I think the biggest problem was Steve Nash, the James Harden trade, and just the lack of bench. Because if they had LeVert and Jarrett Allen, that could have been nice to have against the Bucks. Karis LeVert, who can go off the dribble, can shoot a bit, plays a little defense, he can create for others and himself. Jarrett Allen, who would by far and away be the best defensive player on the Nets.
Yeah.
And you're running Nick Claxton out there, and I know Blake Griffin played well, but that's not going to beat, teams that just have incredible length like the Bucks or the Hawks, and that's going to kill you in that scenario. And I don't know if half of these guys come back next year. I think you can kind of bring that up a little bit. I don't know yet. It's a very tough question, but I don't know what they can do from here. It was
I don't want to necessarily lose faith in that trio of guys put together, because again, I've stated it so many times, it's arguably the most talented group of guys you've seen put together all in their prime. Did they really play together? No, that was the problem this year. The injuries hurt it, and obviously LeBron mentioned that the season should have started later. They shouldn't have started so early. That's why guys got hurt. Sure, that's part of it. But I mentioned before, it was the karma of Kyrie just deciding, let me take an off day. Harden holding out in Houston. KD did get hurt. He also already recovered from an injury. It's a lot playing into it. So the injuries, of course, are really a main factor of what killed this supposedly is supposed to be a historical run by the Nets. It just didn't happen. It was a championship or bust for them. I believe that since they got these three together. But that's the thing. Next year now, okay, you're not playing in the finals. You're getting your rest. You're going to be able to recuperate for next year and figure it out. So I don't think it's worth quitting on anything after 1 year. I think if any of those three guys decide that, they're crazy. But going back to the point is, there's really no excuse as a team. Guys go down, someone's got to step up. like what campaign did for Chris Paul. KD, I don't think any star like LeBron or KD deserves any scrutiny for not being able to win these games. He played 53 minutes in Game 7, being every minute. And in Game 5, all 48. And then in Game 6, he sat, I believe, 5 minutes. So he sat 5 minutes through 3 games total. He did everything that he could physically on the court. You got to have other guys play and step up. You can't win games by yourself. I'm not saying that's Kevin Durant is the best in the world, which you could argue that.
He is.
Yeah. But it doesn't matter if you are the best in the world. You will not win a championship by yourself. And I think you might have noticed, he might have discovered that in OKC. That's why he wanted to go join Golden State. But that's clearly the reason here. He couldn't do it alone. The Bucks were much more well organized. They were ready to play. And just like what you said with the Hawks, that's their type of team. That's why I think this series could be so great. Right. Because you got guys just playing together as units